Hi, everyone. Hope you love the ticker. I just made it yesterday. Anyways, with that said, we're here live again. It's the hour of Empower. The word of the day is persistence. That's on Leslie. So if it doesn't work out today, you know how to comment to Leslie. So with that said, chat's open or soon will be. We got 2 comments already. Renadeb, I think, just waits for the starting line, and he always says the same thing. I wish we had a door prize. Good morning to all from my side. Wonderful to join the session today, for sure. Baz, haven't seen you in a while. Seen you around.
Hi, Baz. Hi. Ooh.
Hope all's well with you. With that, I'll start with Leslie, and she can bring us up to date on being up to date. I know that she has an interest in persistence because it was her word. So Leslie, why don't you share latest, greatest, and your interest in persistence? And I know you're doing a workshop coming up. We'll talk about that a little later. So Leslie, take it away.
Well, okay. Hi, everybody. So glad. Now, I don't see any of the chat. So am I not be able to see the chat?
I haven't read that chapter yet.
Oh, well, I may have to log in. But anyway, oh, yeah, stream this to
Okay.
you.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
No problem. Okay, I love to look at the chat. And so the only way to
I'll figure that out.
Well, all you have to do is open another window with LinkedIn, and then you've got 2 windows.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You can see.
Yeah. But anyway, so I just rebooted Think and Grow Rich. This is the 4th 12-week series I've done on LinkedIn. And we did the introduction, which is definite purpose, which is like the seed of anything you want. It's got to be clear. If it isn't clear, find something else that you can visualize to be clear that you really want. And then Mondays, I have Mind Over Matter Mondays, which is an audio room, which is different than this. It's like people share, I think, more personal stories about when they were a hero and really outweighed their own fear to stand for somebody else. And we've all done it. And when we share stories about when we've done it or people have done it for us, it reminds us of when it happened for us. And that's important because that is a wonderful feeling and a very high vibration. And I'm starting a new series next week. I'm still figuring it out, but it'll be 12 weeks. And it will be the 12 laws of high achievement. And every week, I'm pretty sure it's going to be live with a co-host or 2. And these are the steps that I've used over 500 goals with clients that work every time. So each week we'll do that. So that's, I'm here with you and all sorts of wonderful things happening. I had a conversation with Catherine and she and I are noodling something very special.
Well, that's great. I'm such a proponent of collaboration, of combining, of actuating, finding out where someone's a little stuck, what we can do to free them up, open them up, expose some of the great things that people are doing. With that, I'll turn it over to Catherine. It's always great to see Catherine. What's your thoughts on persistence? And before that, if you want to share any updates on what you're doing, I'm sure everybody would love to hear.
Well, it's really fun. And it's always fun to be here with you and Leslie, Don. So it's just like, okay, here we go. And as you were talking, Leslie, about persistence and whatnot, it's also consistency of action. Mm-hmm. And having to take the actions, which is something that we also talked about a little bit yesterday when we were talking about our fabulous project. So what's wonderful about that is just we're taking actions, right? And so by being a good role model in that arena, I think it's helpful to a lot of people. And I think that that's really important. I have several big things, right? That my 2 10% that I think that everybody should know about. And, the thoughts run the show, and what you choose to think and how you talk to yourself and how you talk to other people, and those feelings that you choose perpetuate, right? They make a big difference in how your body responds. And so we're all in this together. We're three-dimensional. And it's so important to realize that, and but also realize that, you're part of this universal energy, but your thoughts are running the show. And so let's concentrate on that, and persistence and consistency of what you choose to think, because it's very easy to get, derailed and sidetracked, right? And we just go, whoa, there I am over there, and it's like, no. And the more persistent you are in catching yourself much more quickly, oh my gosh, what a benefit that is. And so I do a Create Your Ultimate Mind diet on the third Tuesday of each month. I think that we're session 4 coming up here in November. And, I talk for about 10 or 15 minutes and then have time for questions. We meet for just a half hour. I think it's important to have some action steps that you can use that day. And so that's always my goal in that. Leslie and I are talking about doing something in December, and we're not going to tell you the fabulous title of this, but it is 12/12 at 12 noon. And so,
Wow.
Don't make that mean anything, though.
No, I'm already calculating the numbers and numerology, but anyway.
well, it's easy for us to remember. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, tell me about it. Every day, 11 a.m. You can't get more consistent and convenient in a way. But what I'm starting to think about persistence is it has that element of insistence, right? Where you insist that this is going to happen, and that creates that persistence. It's like this has to be the way it has to be for something more important or valuable to happen. And I think you become the model for other people to duplicate it, because some people say, I couldn't do one show. How could I do 400 in a row? And you don't have to do 400 in a row. You have to do one show a day and get value, provide value, and learn a little bit more than you knew the day before for the next day. Because everybody's here like a, like a serial almost, where you see episode 1 and you see episode 2, and then you see new characters and you see new activities. And, this week I've really accelerated on new people. And actually the tide has kind of shifted into what most people didn't want to talk about, which is monetization. Right? I mean, everybody, is like, well, can you help people and also help yourself? Well, if you help enough people with enough value, you're only getting back a return on what you gave and not a minus to what you gave. And I think, when people are persistent in creating more value, especially personalized value, where you could talk to people, see where they're at, see where there's a snag, see where there's a misunderstanding. That keeps relationships going, communication. When it's just, here's the book, read it, good luck, that leaves a lot to be desired. Before we swing it right back to Leslie, we're going to hit some comments. Dennis is here. Dennis is a great guy. You should get to know him just for being a great guy. So thanks for being here, Dennis. Not much of a rhyme there. I'm sure you'll pick it up as the show goes on.
Just to warm up.
Yeah, just a low bar to build expectation for better. Kelly's here. Kelly's always here. This is, she's in such a fabric of the show. Mm-hmm. And so is Leslie and Catherine, because it is like a quilting. Everybody's adding their little piece and making a beautiful mosaic. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth is here. I got to give Elizabeth credit. She's everywhere trying to learn from everybody. And the faster you learn, the better you learn, and the better you can apply it. Maria's here. Maria's here pretty much every day. Always glad to see her. Persistence, is my middle name. Well, if you're not persistent, you're not going to be too consistent either, right? If you start and stop and don't finish, don't continue. And, one way to stay persistent is with other people's help and support. I think it's a valued benefit for Leslie, Catherine, me, Kelly, all these people to now start offering programs where you can get more than a sample or a morsel. And it really does test your conviction as to do you really want to improve? It's one thing when you don't know, and then you don't know somebody who might know. Well, then you're kind of stuck, but you still got YouTube and other channels. So anyways, I would encourage people to do more for others and justify it by getting rewarded for it. I mean, everybody should eat at the table, right? Have a slice of the pie. Dennis, agree, be on a roll and you can become a role model like you three. Great. Dennis was on the show. Very entertaining. 1212 is dozens of great information. Ashif is here. Always great to see you, Ashif. Wonderful to see you, beautiful souls, listening in today. 121212. It's starting to make its round on the internet now. Danny, Ola, great to see you, Danny. Glad you're doing well. Ashley's here. Nice to see you, Petra. And coming up with Maria, which says, Kelly, where are you? Well, she's about 12 comments above. With that said, Leslie.
Well, thank you, Donald. Welcome, everybody, again. So I didn't really say much about persistence. I was busy talking about myself and things that I was doing. But persistence is very important. It's the 8th principle of success. And it is the sustained effort necessary to induce faith in yourself. So of the 13 principles of success in Think and Grow Rich, the 2 that are absolute requirements for you to get what you want, achieve what you want, set a goal and achieve it, is desire and persistence. All the rest are wonderful: faith, auto-suggestion, decision, mastermind. All of them are fabulous and wonderful, and it all builds on definite purpose. So the specificity of what it is we want must be so clear and compelling, with a visual in our mind's eye of what that looks like once we've achieved it. That helps you build the burning desire that you're compelled, you're the one, you'll do it till the end of time because it has a big impact, right? It makes a difference for people. And so then that gives you the sustained effort to be persistent and be motivated long enough to achieve your goals. So for me, I like to use as many as possible, but I know that it's too difficult for me to stay persistent in any task if I don't make the task super clear, right? Really crystallize, not money. In fact, I was thinking the other day that where was I? Oh, I was in the bank. And as I was leaving, I know the ladies there, right? And I said, hey, ladies, see you later. I said, are there any extra money around today? And they said, no. Oh, wait, there's a penny on the floor. So I walked over and picked up the penny. One of them said something like a lovely quote. And I went to give it to them. No. Don't give it to us. And I'm thinking, what did I do wrong?
Bribery.
No. They have to fill out paperwork for money.
I thought you were going to make a deposit slip and put in your.
That would cause them more time and money than it's worth. But the idea here is, now, why did I bring that up? It doesn't matter. The thing is whatever it is you want, right? I have learned that if you really, really want it and you have a good reason and it's not hurting anybody else, right? Violating anybody else's rights, get real clear on what it is. And if you can't, pick something else.
Makes sense. Catherine?
Thank you.
I agree with you that if you don't see it clearly, it's not your thing.
That's right.
Because it's so easy to see if you really want it, right? And so, and the clarity, it does take a little bit sometimes to finesse it out, that clarity. But
Absolutely.
if you have that and it is a burning desire, the clarity comes pretty quickly.
So,
And
Catherine, tell everybody why it's important to visualize it in present tense as though you already have it based on vibration. Why
well,
is it?
because it's imperative to be a vibrational match for it. And if you say, oh, okay, so I will, or I'm thinking about it, that's just pushing it off. I mean, it's always going to be way out there, and you just keep fending it off, basically.
That's
But
right.
if it's I am, right? And even just by saying I am, your vibration comes up just by saying that. And it's
That's
imperative to
right.
be the vibrational match so it comes to you.
Yeah.
And it's a meeting. It's almost like like a meeting of the minds, right?
Well, it isn't it actually though that we don't go anywhere.
Oh,
We're
that
not moving into the future, but that thing that we want, if it's a vibrational match, it's already on its way to you at the same velocity, if you will, that you're on the way to manifesting it. So it will actually greet you, won't it?
well, it's a becoming the match, because we're always on this, the universal energy is always an upward spiral. It's always an upward pull, right? And
Yep.
I describe it to people as the train is always leaving the station. Are you on it or are you not, right? And so we are always in motion, but having that clarity is what brings what it is we want to us. But it's both, because we're always moving, we're always in motion, in order to be able to become that vibrational match. If we're not on that train leaving the station, the vibration is not where we want it to be as far as being the match, and it's not going to happen.
Well, and I think
And
along
this
with
is how we oh, sorry, Donald, go ahead.
sure.
Please, please
Okay, I'll give you a
speak up.
second.
Speak up.
Oh,
Speak up.
yeah. So here's what I'm speaking up about.
Okay.
Is I think a lot of people look at persistence as a challenge or a chore or going outside of your comfort zone. But if you make that part of your model of how you go out and do things, I mean, for 37 years in my business, persistence was necessary because bills had to get paid, big bills, and things had to get done, right? And not doing them was as bad as doing them and not getting anything out of it, because you're still getting nothing, but at least you're getting education, getting people in the game. So when I look at persistence, just again to mirror what I'm doing and a lot of other people are doing on a consistent basis, is you always have to ask your question, if I didn't do what I'm always used to doing, what am I doing in that time instead? Right? When people take time off and don't do anything with it, but sit around and wait to do something,
Mm.
And I think the other part about being singularly focused is having something you can focus and be persistent about. If you're doing 10 different things, your time allotment and your thought allotment, because persistency is really one of thought, not action, right? Once you believe, once you have that confidence, once you know what you need to do, the action will come. They say if you got a big enough why, you'll figure out the how to. And in life, if something is that important, you don't have to know it in advance. You don't even have to know if you're going to be successful in advance, but you have.
And in fact, Donald, that is one of the laws of high achievers. They don't know how when they start. Think about all the greater, you didn't know how.
No, I
Right?
don't know how today.
Oh,
But that's why you have conversations. That's why you throw things out and get feedback. That's why you try little things that won't hurt anything. And I agree with Leslie. If whatever you're doing is not impacting somebody negatively, right? Then you have nothing to lose by doing more stuff and being more active in your pursuit of what you have, because you never arrive. Because
right.
wherever you're at, you're always going to be somewhere the next day. What are you going to have as a foundation to build on?
Mhm.
Right? And most of that stuff then gives you a tailwind after a while, because here's the thing: do what other people don't do, and you'll get what other people don't get.
That's exactly what Andrew Carnegie challenged Napoleon Hill with. Interviewing people for 20, 25 years, right? Thousands of people, but 500 consistently, to figure out these people are wealthy, happy, and healthy.
Mhm.
What the heck are they doing that the rest of us fail to do? And that is how this book was born. It's a synthesis of 5,000 years of these insights, these principles. They've always been here. But the thing about Napoleon Hill being the 20th century greatest reporter on success is that he brought it all together under one roof
Mhm.
and created the 13 principles. But you can find them in the Tao, you can find them in the Bhagavad Gita. They're everywhere. But it's easier when somebody synthesizes it all, and that's what made him such a great reporter. And that means we can do that too. So let's say all of a sudden I want to become known as the most successful and the most intelligent in real estate. I don't know anything about real estate. But if I spent 20 years and I was compelled,
Yep.
right, there was something, I could then be that, right? Because I would do the work and I would interview all the real estate people. I would learn a bundle and then put together a book, right, which compiles the best tips. And this is the magic of thinking.
Well, before I turn it over to Catherine, access to information has never been easier or greater, right? So you can buy a lot of vowels before you solve the puzzle. Actually, a lot of these new people come on. I do go to their YouTube channel and see their interviews. I see their live streams, and by then I know what they're used to. I know who they are, because why waste the time of being live and getting answers to things that are on somebody's profile? Someone took 5 minutes to maybe look at what you've done or who you are or whatever, and based on that, persistency is fun if you like adventure. But one last thing before I turn it over is, a lot of times you definitely don't know how you're going to do what you're going to do. But what you find out is not knowing it also opens roads to things that now show up and say, hey, forget that last direction. This is so much better. And I'm already into it. So you let life come to you, you let the universe unfold, because once you prescribe something, once you set something in stone, the chances of putting a round peg in a square hole is very easy. With that, I'll turn it over to Catherine, starting with building blocks. What's your latest thoughts on persistence and this conversation?
Well, absolutely have to have the foundation before you can hang the front door. And so what's fascinating about that is when you're putting that foundation together, if you're open to information coming to you, it absolutely does. And just think how much stronger your foundation is. And also, I think it's so important to learn to live, the power's in the moment, right? And what's fascinating about that, it's easy to get ahead of ourselves. And don't confuse that with visualization, right? And so I think that sometimes people do kind of muddy that up a little bit, because it's like, well, okay, if I'm supposed to be visualizing, but I'm supposed to be in the moment, how does that work? Right. And so it's not that difficult once you sort it out in your mind that, okay, yes, my power is in the moment, but what am I working on? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's imperative to also stay in that present tense in how you talk to yourself. Because if I say, okay, I think I'm going to try to, see what I can do about, getting that all put together.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm just trying, you're always going to be trying. You're not doing it, right? I'm just thinking about trying it. I reserve the word trying for trying on clothing and shoes for size. Right? And so I think it's important to think about how we talk to ourselves, and it's not just that how we talk to ourselves is not just being nicer to yourself, but I think many people would benefit from being nicer to themselves, and then they're nicer to other people also. But it's also important to evaluate, am I talking to myself in the present tense, or am I just pushing everything away from me? Because it always keeps it right out of reach. And so, because if you're always trying, or if I'm looking for something, well, you could always be looking. But if you say, I'm finding this today, right, then you find it, right? Because it allows it to come to you, right? It's a match.
Well, I think that makes so much sense. And, when I look at persistency, the question of when has to come into your mind when you think of something to do, right? You can say, hey, I need to get this done. And if you just say when, you're gonna figure out how committed you are to doing it, right? That's why a lot of people make a list every day, right? Because they can check it off, or they make a list for the year. Here's the 10 things I'm going to accomplish. But one thing I've learned is you need reinforcement to keep it going. I'll give you an example. And Think and Grow Rich is something I have in common with Leslie before I knew Leslie, is when things were in the darkest part of my business career, early 90s, I listened to Think and Grow Rich on that cassette every day on the way to work, on the way home, for a year and a half. I mean, I had a radio I didn't even need. All I needed was that tape deck. And the difference is I started relying on their beliefs to support my belief, right? And every day my attitude would change from the minute I left my garage to the minute I pulled into the parking space, and also would help me when I left work to readjust to coming home, right? So, I'll turn it over to Leslie after we cover all these other wonderful people. The comments are coming in loud and strong. I got to give credit to the StreamYard. Everything seems so much easier, better. And I'll tell you what, the minutes and comments are twice as much as they were on Restream a couple weeks ago. So there's a lot of people weren't seeing the show. A lot of people weren't getting whatever it is. I'm glad to see there's a difference. Maria and Kelly connect. This is for all the doubting Dans with unwavering resolve and unwavering grace will conquer the challenges we face in the symphony of life. Will be persistent and strong. With persistence, will prove the doubters wrong. For sure, it's been done all the time. People who think, people who stay with it are going to do better than people who don't think and don't stay with it. It's just natural. They say do what others. Well, we said that already. Anyways, Dennis says, agree, good to make money and sense. Why not? I mean, if we're here to help people, we want to help you do better. And what is doing better? Knowing better is nice. Feeling better is nice. But actually receiving something for being better is also a compliment to that. And you can do more when you have more to work with, and you're more stress-free when you don't have to worry as much. So, it's something people shouldn't just cast aside, because it's almost like justifying something that isn't happening because you're not doing something to make it happen. Renadeb says persistence refers to the quality of being determined for an individual in any given situation. The ultimate goal is to win and achieve the final result. And when you're better than you're showing yourself, or better than you're being recognized, that's where persistence wins the day. Because you're not quitting. It's not the people started fast, it's the people finished. Doesn't matter how slow it took, but they finished. And I think that's the difference between winners and losers. Everybody's a champion when the sun's out, but when the clouds come or the rain show up, who's standing next to you? And that's where the persistency shows. Desire and persistency, clarity, Leslie Flowers. You're getting known even within the show. Your ability to persist in the face of setbacks and disappointments is your measure of your belief in yourself and your ability to succeed. Persistence is the iron quality of success. And the other thing is, whether you're persistent or not, life is still coming at you, right? So, I think it's a benefit to you to address things, accomplish things, move on to things.
Mhm.
Good morning, gang. Beverly's here. Beverly's every Tuesday. Don't want to miss Beverly. Beverly's always graceful with everybody and supportive with the help of being persistent. An individual can achieve to accomplish many things such as adaptability, building one's confidence, clear thinking, continuous learning, attitude, and overcoming fear of failure. That's a lot in one little sentence. Here we go with Ashley, but as an editor, I wanted my audience to get to know me first away from my office. Do you think it would be, yeah, get a show. What do you got to lose? You know, if you tell us, I'm sure some of us will come. So, you know, do a show and follow other people's shows, get on other people's shows. You know, that's a way to get some practice. Right? You were different down, Leslie. There are so many opportunities to learn and create and do differently, no judging. Just keep it moving forward. You know, I read something. Actually, it was that new guy on the Nuggets team, that Jokic, you know, who's the MVP of basketball and everything. And he's been getting a lot of critics. And meanwhile, he set every record, MVP stuff. And he says, you know, most of the people are criticizing me can't even kick a ball, let alone dribble a ball or something. So it's like you can't take feedback from people who haven't done anything, haven't done what you're doing. And too many people take people seriously. We had a conversation prior to going live about people that represent themselves as something, and they're completely not. And when you lose trust and authenticity, you might as well just find a new place to play. So with that, Leslie, you've been waiting patiently, which is a great quality.
I forgot where the hell we are. Because you said before I turn it over to Leslie, let's do this. So where were we?
We were somewhere, and now we're somewhere better. So,
okay.
You know.
Well, let me share something then.
Maybe.
So in order to create the discipline, right? Discipline and persistence belong together. It goes back to, right? What I know what I wanted to say.
Okay.
So it is important, as Rhonda Bebb said, it's all about achieving the thing that we want. What is it that will keep us motivated long enough to build faith in our ability to doing something we've never done before, right? And to overcome the obstacles. Now, to Donald's point, there are less obstacles when you don't know how. For example, here's an example. Well, I mean, look at the airplane. They didn't know how. Look at the computer industry. They didn't know how, but they had a vision. And we were talking about thinking in present tense. That is standing in the future in the present. Yeah. And the reason we do that is because it's exciting. It drives up our cellular vibration. And that amplitude of vibration is matched on the second iteration, that thing you want, which is on its way to you. So as the longer we can keep our vibration high, we do this through visualizing, but we visualize as though we already have it. Yeah. Okay, but I wanted to go back to where So, for example, if you wanted to climb a mountain, right? Maybe that's been your dream, your bucket list. You're going to climb Machu Picchu, right? You gotta have specificity, and you don't have no clue how to do that. You've never climbed anything. All you need is 2 steps. Now, because you haven't done it before, fear is going to jump right in your face. Mm-hmm. Are you in good enough condition? Will you be able to afford the equipment? Can you take the time off from work? This is what happens when we get this new idea that intrigues us through creative imagination, something maybe that we hadn't thought of before or somebody brings up. We don't know how to do it. So fear is the first thing. So what you do to mask the fear, and it's very strong. Most people give up right then. Well, that's right. I don't have the money. Absolutely. You're right. But those are fears. Fear of poverty, fear of criticism. What happens if I don't do it? What will people think of me? So All you have to do is take 2 short steps. The minute you get the idea, before you can even inhale, move. And that actually obliterates, it allows your conscious mind to outweigh the negative thought, which is normal. When you haven't done something, it's normal. So the 2 steps, if I want to climb on a mountain, Machu Picchu, so what I'm going to do is look for local places that do mountain climbing. Maybe look at equipment, right? By that time, you're in action, right? So fear it's still there, and it should be because you haven't done it before. But why you wanted to climb the mountain? Well, you've lived all your life and you've given to everybody else, and this is the last thing on your bucket list. You're compelled. You're going to do it or die, right? Then, as maybe you'll do a small climb when you're trained, etc. So there you are at the base of Machu Picchu, right? You're there. You don't know all the steps to get to the top. And this is to the point that Donald made, was that allowed the universe to give you the information. So what happens is, it's not until both feet and both hands are on the mountain, even if it's just a little bit, you've actually gotten yourself on the mountain until the next place for your hand is given to you. So once you're up there, to what Donald was saying, when you reach up, the answer is there. You find the place to rest your hand, right? But if you had already made your mind up that it has to be this way, and you plotted out everything you knew based on what you know now, which you're going to know more when this hour is over, then you're attached to making those steps happen. And they don't all the time. There are obstacles, but if you will at least take the 2 steps, get your butt on the mountain, when you reach up, the universe or God is going to guide your hand, if you will. So that's why not knowing how is important. Why you have to be compelled to be doing this, because there is fear, right? And there are obstacles. So that's what I have to share.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And moving on to Catherine.
Well, it's great. As you were talking, Leslie, it reminds me of one of my mentors, Mary Morrissey. And
I know Mary. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And so what's so fun is quite often, okay, so you already know, quite often she says, baby steps will take you all the way to the top of Mount Everest.
Yes, and she uses 5 sensorizing. Tell people about that, because that's something that I got from her.
Well, it's fabulous because with the visualization, if you can bring in the 5 senses and actually, oh my gosh, when I'm in this situation, what sounds am I hearing? What smells am I smelling? Oh my gosh, what am I eating? What are my taste buds telling me, right? And what does it feel like? What does it feel like to be that person in that situation that I am visualizing?
Yes.
What am I feeling? What am I seeing? As I'm becoming that person?
Yes.
Because we absolutely have to become a new personality, because the person in the vision isn't the person that's talking right now, right? And so, yeah. And so visualization is not just some rosy picture over there that somebody else painted, right? It's being in the environment. And that's why when you're talking about, making the decision and feeling the fear, that's why a pattern interrupt is so important sometimes, because it does change your physicality, which also changes your vibration, and it gives an allowance for that vibration to rise, because the fear is a lower vibration, right? And
Absolutely. So yeah, and isn't it true that the vibration is actually attached, and it's a cellular vibration, right? It's the vibration. But isn't it true, and correct me if this isn't accurate or this a different way, Catherine, that the visualization in present tense literally traps the vibration, so that when you bring it back up again, so too does your vibration rise. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I believe that that is a way of saying it, because when you are in, when you're visualizing what it is that you want, what you're working on,
Mhm.
and bringing it to the present tense while you're visualizing it in the future, because everything is created twice, right?
Right,
It's in
right,
your
right.
mind and then it comes to you.
That's
And
right.
if you can visualize it, it's absolutely done. And that's why, if you can, much of the message is carried in emotion. And so
Yes.
when you
Yeah.
sensorize things, it's just like, oh my gosh, that tastes so good, but I'm in that restaurant, right? That's just around the corner from my new house, right? Or whatever it is that you're thinking about, and what you're visualizing. And oh my gosh, I just got a new puppy. Wow, that's part of my new life. And so
Yeah.
all of these things, one thing leads to another. And it's part of that persistence. It's part of the consistency of the action. It's part of keeping I guess what comes to mind is keeping the dream alive, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's fascinating, and it's fascinating also some of these sayings that we use that we don't really apply to anything. Go with the flow, keep the dream alive, right? All of these things really have factual, useful meaning for us if we use it how we are intended to use it, because I think this is a much more natural way of living than any
Mm.
of the other societal impositions that have come our way, right? And people wanting to control us. And gosh, everybody has a unique gift, and if everybody was following their visualization and running at a high vibration, we wouldn't have nearly all of the issues that we have now, right? Because when you're in this kind of, if you're living from the inside out, is how I talk about it. You're not judging all these other people, and you're not being critical, and you're not putting people down and teaching them, how to be nasty. So I think it's really important to develop these things. And what also comes to mind is Angela Duckworth's research on grit, right? And that, I think, grit and persistence persistence is part of being gritty. And
Mhm.
I think grit is something that is a fabulous way to think about things, because it has a lot of clarity involved, which is what you were talking about, Leslie.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think that one also has to qualify and categorize activities, because a lot of it is research and development or learning,
Mhm.
and there is no stress in that. So in other words, the mountain doesn't mean anything until you've actually kind of done enough research or feedback and said, okay, now go ahead,
Well,
Catherine.
I want to just add something to that, and we touched on it in a previous conversation at some point. Research and development is great, but it's easy to get stuck there and hide in it.
I remember when we talked
Right?
about this.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
McDonald again.
Right. Yeah.
But that's how you can take some of the sting away from what somebody would start keeping score when they're still just practicing
Yep.
for the game. And because the key is being in the game long enough to feel, taste, enjoy something from your action. That low hanging fruit, that first win, that now says reality is proving me right, not my vision only or my commitment or persistence. And I think everybody wants to avoid pain more than they actually go reach for opportunity. And if one can understand what this could mean to my family, to me, if I can get that degree, if I can move and get that position, then someone will say, well, it's worth moving, selling your house, getting out of here, if it's going to open up that door. And that's what keeps you in the game longer, is seeing something. Give me proof, right? Everybody wants to feel it, see it, believe it. And the other thing is once you get, what's so important, I think people lose uh, awareness of it. is everything you're doing and everybody else is doing involves people, right? And if you feel no one's going to outthink me, nobody's going to outwork me, and if they do, I'll follow them and draft off them and try and hit the first place too. But you'll also be elevating together, not competing together, where you can complement each other, collaborate with each other. So if you wanted to climb that mountain, right, find other people who are interested in climbing that mountain. Be part of groups where, you stay in a game longer when you're with people. You stay in a restaurant longer when you're with people, right? If you're by yourself, you go there, you eat, you leave. If you got 10 people, 3-4 hours can go by, right? And you don't even know it, and you would have never done it without them. So I think the ability and access to collaborate in a way like this, which is conversation. The next step, collaboration and doing things together, not just talking together. And then collaboration and investing in yourself. At a certain point, you got to say, why would I invest in Tesla or Intel when I could take a class for that kind of money and transform my life? Right? And all you'll get is
time, because time is a consumable, and you can only do this for so long, right? And then it's time for you to put on your big boy or big girl panties and invest in yourself. Are you gonna, or you could choose to spend the rest of your life doing free workshops.
Absolutely. And here's what I think the point people forget about is they're focused on return on investment all the time, but they don't focus on cost of inaction. So when you decide not to read that book, not to go somewhere, not to do something, that's a cost of not doing it. You'll never see it. You'll never feel it. When you have a great year, you don't know how that year could have been better because you don't know what you don't know. So I think it's up to people to really look at their life. Because when someone asked me the other day, why should I do this? I said, well, how important is the rest of your life to you? Right? Because this could make a whole difference in that. So put it in that context. Don't put it, I'll give you $100, you give me 3 hours. I mean, that's too superficial, too transactional. You probably won't get anything out of it because you're always worried you're never going to get your money back.
But you know what? For those of us who have lived long enough, and many of you who haven't lived as long as we have, the results almost always at least match or exceed the investment. If it's how long are you willing to wait for the ROI, right? But if you are persistent and you've done this thing and you've invested in this thing because you have good reasons why you want to learn, you want to create a new business or whatever, right? You're in it to win it. And how long it takes really shouldn't matter. If you look at Edwin Barnes, who showed up at Thomas Edison's door and put him on notice that he was going to be his partner. He worked for Edison at menial jobs and in the lab for some 5 years. But every day he visualized already being a partner of Edison. So he's sitting there doing this menial work, right? But this vision, this definite purpose, this thing that he would work there till the day he dies because that's what he wants. How long, right? Is it linear, really? I mean, does persistence have an end? Or if it's fueled by a definite purpose and a burning desire, you will stay with it long enough to complete it, and you'll be persistent. And that's what he did. And finally, the Ediphone, the precursor to the dictaphone, showed up. All the salesmen poo-pooed. No one will buy that. And that is because it was top of mind, because he had been raising his vibration every day, because he had been visualizing for 5 years. The question is would you wait 5 years? And we all have.
Well, to your point, I think it's an excellent point, is if one was to bring things into context, and let's just say you know what your gross income is, right, or net income a month, and divide it up into where you spend or invest your money. How much have you invested in classes every year? How much have you bought books or tapes relative to the dinners out? Very little. I mean, if someone said they spent $500, that's more than average, I would say. You know, an Audible membership and a few other things relative to what you spent on entertainment, what you spent on stuff that you don't even remember what you spent at all.
Values.
That's right. And you're the one, you know, you can invest in everybody else's game or you can invest in your game. And you got to look at how much are you investing in that. And it's really a matter of organizing, prioritizing, and saying, here's where I get the biggest bang for my future buck. Right? You go to get a great dessert, you're going to get a big bang for your present buck. But that's not going to serve you going forward. So before I swing it over to Catherine, we're way behind. Got to catch up. Do other people's don't do. This is one truly has meat in it for sure. And it's simple. Most of everything we're talking about is simple that people go out of their way to complicate so they can take more time not doing it, you know, and justify it because it's so difficult. Again,
Well,
you're right.
or they're just confused. And honestly,
Yeah, but that's the advantage for everybody who is in the front of the parade, who is making things happen. They open the road for people because they don't go on the road, you know? And I think that's where when you see an opportunity, take it because windows are closing and opening so much faster these days. And if you can get through enough of these obstacles, anybody who wants to reach your level is going to have to go through those obstacles too. So now you got a little bit of a getaway. Betty's here with great emojis. Nice to see you, Betty. Dennis comes back with cheer when you climb over your fear. Good one. Maria says, okay, Leslie, I want to manifest through creative imagination, a tall, dark, handsome. Where's the answer with the universe? Well, there's 970 million people.
and let me tell you, Maria, I know examples of when it's happened right here on LinkedIn.
No kidding. Well,
Yep.
it's right in front of you. And that's what most opportunities are. Beverly says exactly. It's so easy to criticize, but you're already a winner if you're playing the game. When you're out there, you will be judged. Haters will be haters, but you mustn't let them deter you. Persist. And, you know, that's the other thing. Sometimes when you're just out of gas, you need to take a break. That's why people give up in persistency because they don't know how to moderate things. And there's things that you go to sleep with last night that just really bother you by this morning. They kind of dissipated. Were not that important. So a lot of times you got to give time for things to heal, right? And taking a day off or two is not going to hurt anybody. It's better than leaving the game and knowing you were so close to possibly winning. Visualization. Dennis says, agree, be in the vision, not the division. Dennis, I don't know what you do the rest of the day. Agree, keep the dream alive and your great stream alive. Betty comes back and says, I heard this once, the truth can turn you upside down, but it's better than living the sweetest lie. Grit. Okay.
Donald, I wanted to address Maria a little more, what she said, because I kind of glossed over it. Actually, I've got a former client who about 15 years ago didn't have a partner and really, really wanted to find a soulmate. And so somebody told her to sit down and write down all the qualities, right? Maybe do a Ben Franklin, or I think that's the one where you've got the negatives and the positives, but all the things that you want. She even drew a sketch, right? She had never met this guy, right? But she even drew a sketch of what she thought in her mind's eye he would look like. And then she put it away. And several years later, she actually met this man and he looks like the sketch. And all of those things that, I mean, basically, this is what she told the universe she wanted. So what I would say is jot down the things besides tall, dark, and handsome, right? That he's a thinker, right? That he's an emotionally mature man rather than an adolescent hiding in adult male body, right? All those things, right, that you want. And then picture him. Picture yourself with him walking along the beach, right? What beach would you be going to? What time of year was it? Is it in the spring? Is it in the summer? And start to see yourself already in it. That drives up your cellular vibration. It sends a message to the universe. That's how we communicate with the universal laws. We influence them by our vibration. If we have a low, crummy vibration, they give us that. If we have a high, wonderful vibration, we get to have that. So there is a way to do this.
Well, here, what if one was to do that in every area of their life, right? So if someone wanted financial success,
One at a time, though. One thing at a time, to your point, Donald.
Yeah. With that, let's move it over to Catherine. We've got about 4 minutes left for the hour. Boy, this thing just flies by.
Oh, I know. And so, and when you're, visualizing the person that you want to be with, and you want someone who is a thinker and who's generous and who's financially stable and all of these things, it's also important to ask yourself, am I these things?
Mm-hmm.
Right, because you want to have yourself at that high vibration. And when you were talking about MVPs earlier, Don, what came to mind was be your own best MVP. And how are you investing in yourself, and what steps are you taking to improve your game, right? Because we all have room for improvement. To your point of we never really arrive, we do hit a milestone, but it's just like, okay, that's one of the building blocks. And so it's important to understand that. Because that's why people, when they reach a certain point, there's such a letdown, because they've put such importance on reaching that goal that's this is just going to make everything. No, it's just part of a stepping stone, right? It's just part of the process. And it could be a beautiful what do they call it, putting a golden gem in the crown, but it's just one of the gems, right? It's not the whole thing. And it's just part of the process. And it's always, we're always becoming somebody new. We're changing all the time, because the universe changes all the time. Things are always in motion. We get new information every second. And it's important to be open to those things, because when we, it's power versus force, living from the inside out. It's the power that's within us. It's in the powers and the visualization, the sensorizing, the living in the present moment. That's where we have our power. And when we are worrying or, grousing about what happened with, Joe last year or whatever, all of those things, we're giving our power away. And it's split energy. And that's what keeps people stagnant. When you can think of things on an energetic level, and how am I spending my energy? With a couple of clients, I've been starting to work with them about an attention bank. And okay, so let's do an experiment here. You have 50 points a day. What are you putting on your calendar? What steps are you taking? What are you doing to utilize these 50 points? Because when you get done with the 50 points, you're out. You're out of the game, right? And it makes people think a little bit more about prioritizing how they spend their energy, what activities they're doing, and okay, it really helps to keep the focus, because I think, we haven't actually used the word focus, but we're talking a lot about focus when we talk about being persistent.
Yes, and that's why only one compelling thing, and the byproduct of that milestone, Catherine, that you're talking about, is a new belief. It is faith in your ability to do something you've never done before. And oh, by the way, you did a really good job. So now, along with all your limiting negative beliefs, right, which were designed years ago and implemented without your knowledge, really as a protection through repetition, right now, what you're starting to do is every time you achieve using this process, you've deposited a new positive belief in the subconscious. So you have a choice now of what you're going to think. And you automatically start to think good things because you've done the work and you've proven that the universe is your partner. And you've proven, even though you may not believe it, you've proven that you can do stuff you've never done before and do a really good job at it. So that the idea here is to load ourselves up with achievements, which are all new beliefs. And the way you access it is by being able to be persistent, which is built on desire, which is sourced by a very specific and clear thing that you want.
And also knowing that, the desire has a positive charge.
It's
And
love.
the expectation that desire is coming to fruition has a negative charge. It works like a battery. It's not good or bad. It's energy, right? And it's important to realize that if you have a desire and you're doubting yourself,
Yeah.
the
Well,
light
So you have to outweigh. Yes, you have to. It takes practice consciously
Yeah.
outweigh the old belief. And that's why I mentioned if you get a brand new idea, immediately take 2 steps
Yeah.
because that momentum will allow you to, I don't want to say kind of hide fear temporarily. Like it doesn't, because it's a new idea, it's a spiritual seed and it has no roots.
Mhm.
So you have no clue how you're going to do it. But how do we get past that first initial fear? Take action. Take 2 little steps. And now you're in the throes of it. Oh boy, I mean, there's a local place where I can go and learn to climb a mountain.
Right.
And so while your fear is still present, it's really the green light or the reminder that this is a good goal.
Mhm.
Because if there's no fear, you would have already done it, as you said, Catherine.
Well, I think to kind of put it together, if you feel fear, maybe you need to back down some of your activity, right? So to make little steps, buy a vowel, get some information, that isn't going to create fear. The other thing is I think Catherine made a point is when something is your whole thing, you're way too dependent on that result, right? If you're coming from abundance and you have more choices than you can pick, just like if someone makes an appointment for a phone call. Well, that was the whole call for the week and that was it, and they didn't make it, your whole week would feel like a disappointment. If you had 4 or 5 calls scheduled that day, it's almost like, thank you for giving me another hour off, right? Or it's a re-gift, and I already know I saved the time from calling you because you never even said you weren't going to make it, right? So you just accept what you have. And if you're coming from, hey, I got so much to do, so many people to talk to, they're helping me qualify themselves out by what they're doing versus me chasing people, because you always want a pull strategy. You want to do things of so much value that attracts people to you, right? And once you tell people what you have and once you deliver it, people are going to go wherever they can get the best source of supply and value. And you never have to worry about reaching for somebody. You have to just decide who that person in front of you is and at what level do you want to start. Why not get to know someone over time? You can always accelerate it, but you can't always unaccelerate it once you've gone to places that maybe you shouldn't have gone. But that's part of living, and that's part of the amazement of the mystery of it. You never come out
Magical. It's magical.
Yeah, because you got to put it all together and say, at the end of the day, I'm still alive. At the end of the day, I'm still got my family. And that's a big thing. If you have enough around you that loves you unconditionally just for who you are, like grandkids can be, I know I'm always playing to a happy audience, because it's there. So coming from there to anywhere else softens those blows that you don't even know the person. Why do you give them so much strength or power over you? You know, you're just using them as an excuse for yourself in a lot of ways, right? By blame, by disappointment or frustration, but that's an activity. So with that said, we're way over time, but it's been happy time. I can't believe the stuff we come up with that we had no knowledge of what we were going to say or how we were going to say it or when we were going to say it. But that's what allows people to empower themselves, is riding somebody else's wave or getting on their surfboard together, you know, and doing all these wonderful things. It reminds me of Cypress Gardens. It's no longer, but, you know, they had a place where all these mainly women water skiers would be, right? And they do all the synchronized stuff. It was so cool. And I think a collective gives you that, you know? So anyways, be persistent. It works, you know, practice it a little bit more, extend the time before you quit. You know, just like when you go live here on Restream or StreamYard, I get mixed up. It asks you, do you really want to go live? Right? When you want to quit, you got to ask yourself before you quit, maybe I'll press the second time tomorrow. Right? I mean, you can still quit tonight, but you can say, hey, to make it legal, I got to hit it twice and I can't do it like it's a time lock until tomorrow. And you'll find out I was happy I took the time. If not, you're happy you figured out that it was something that doesn't work. And last thing about persistency, when it's obvious it's not what you're looking for, stop trying that hard, right? Once you know that there's a better way or a different way, that goes from persistency into being stubborn, you know, or using pride or something in front of reason. So with that, Leslie, Catherine, so happy you were here today. You can say your final words if anybody else is still here with us. Catherine, you can go first.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to both of you. This is, you know, another fun conversation. I appreciate it.
Well, you create a wonderful dynamic in this trio, and I think everybody, and I think that's the beauty of it, complement each other with their contrast in a good way. Yeah. Leslie, take it away.
So I'll leave you with persistence is the sustained effort necessary to induce faith, and faith is the only known antidote to fear.
What?
That's it.
Yeah, and you know what they say, faith is the belief in the invisible, right? So if you can believe in it without seeing it yet or feeling it yet, but knowing it, you know, sometimes you just know it's happening, it's coming, you know, and you don't know why or how, but it's like it just is like already crystallized. And once you feel that, everything changes. It's like the checks in the mail. If you really believe it and the check's a good check, you already feel like you could spend it before you deposit it.
Remember, it's never enough when I do that, whatever the amount of the check is. As I start to calculate, how am I going to spend this? I always run out before I'm done applying the money. How about you?
Why people get it back into the marketplace the next day and try to you know, winning is fun when it stays winning. So I know there was a few other comments. I'll mention one more. Beverly had a big one. I spend many thousands a year on improvement and development. You can always find the money if you want it enough.
That's right. Absolutely.
More investing yourself is the best investment. Yep. And you ask yourself, if all your life you got to a point where you need help, you're not satisfied, maybe that could have been one of the reasons that, you know, and maybe now is the time to start leveraging that new reason of making a small investment. It doesn't matter. Buy a book, you know, do anything, you know, but at least you're taking that road and build on it. So with that, goodbye. Come back tomorrow. That's as fast as you can say goodbye. Tomorrow we're going to have, let me see, we're going to have
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday. Let me get Sunday for everybody. Just probably me and Leslie and Catherine. But Sunday is Sarah Dawkins and Jackie Scully, a brand new person. yeah, I've got another person, Kathleen, on Wednesday, and actually Minerva, who's been here, is going to be joining us with Beverly on Tuesday. So a lot of great people, a lot of great shows. Can't thank everybody enough for supporting us because it's one of the best hours of my day. And hopefully it becomes one of the best days of your life. With that, say hello to tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.